Welcome to The World Today. I'm Majeed Khan. What can we really talk about when the whole world, it seems, has gone literally mad? The Gaza toll has risen to 59 people, with more protests against Israel planned. Fresh protests are expected on Tuesday, and that is a day after Israeli forces killed 59 Palestinians during clashes and protests along the Gaza border against the United States Embassy opening in Jerusalem. And this is really our topic of conversation today. We'll talk about it in detail. Let me introduce my guests in the studio. First of all, we have Bakur Younus with us. He's a Palestinian journalist. Along with him, we have Burhanul Islam Saab, former ambassador, and Sheryar Khan, who's with the Iqra University. Thank you very much for being here. Bakur, I'll start with you. One of the bloodiest days after the Nakba, the catastrophe, which is going to be observed today, in fact. And what has changed since 1948 for the Palestinians? Has it gone from bad to worse? And it is a situation that there seems to be no end in sight for the misery of the Palestinians to end?
For the Palestinians, nothing has changed so far. We are becoming, every day, becoming more sure and clear sure that returning our country back is it will never happen through conferences, through talks, through United Nations rules. It will only come back through our hand, through our struggle, through our freedom movement. What's happening now in Palestine, this generation is, everybody was expecting that this generation will be more, you can say, indulge in his everyday needs, his mobiles, internets, different computer apps. But they have found that those people still think that this Jerusalem, Al-Quds, is a holy place, and they want this place to come back to their hand, to their control, and they want the Israeli, the Jewish, to move out from the holy place, the first Qibla for Muslims. So those are a clear Muslim, ideology. Nothing have changed their ideology. Nothing have affected their mind. They are still having the same concept. A holy place have to come back to the Muslims by their hand, and it should be under their control. The Jewish have no place in Palestine. This concept is, having maybe a different way of expressing it. The people of this generation is trying to, to have it, to explain this, you can say, ideology by their walking to the border of Palestine. Actually, as you know, the Jewish have divided Palestine 1948, but for them, there's no borders. They have reached to the borders which Israeli have made today, and the number of killed people is around, by the way, it's around 70 plus, and the number of injured around 700 now. But still, no one wants to stop. But there's one very important, you can say, thing we are seeing in this situation. There is no leader in our all Muslim Ummah or Muslim countries. We have seen no leader who is supporting Palestinians. We have seen, even among the Palestinians, there is no leader who is controlling those people, who are actually guiding them. Okay, fine. We have the power now. We have the people who want to sacrifice. But we don't have we don't have any support from Islamic countries. We don't have any support from any Muslim leader. We have no support from no one, which is actually unfortunate. And this explains what the weakness of our situation, we Muslims. It's not because the people are not strong. It's not because the people are not willing to get their holy places back. No, it's only because of the failure of the leader, the failure of the states we are living in. All the leaderships we have, none of them is sincere. None of them looks really in the same way the people look at it, especially to their holy places, to their holy concepts, to their holy ideologies. See, the Palestinians is, maybe other people say, oh, why those people are walking, killing themselves? It's not walking, killing themselves. It's a movement, it's a freedom movement, it's an honorary movement. The people, they're saying to themselves, we are doing something, other people are not able to do it. It's an honor.
After listening to what you're saying, Bakur, there are so many parallels that can be drawn between the struggle of the Kashmiri people and the struggle of the Palestinians. True. It's almost an identical story on both sides. Burhan Saab, I'd like to ask for your comment on Pakistan's response to the violence in Gaza that just erupted. Pakistan expresses grave concern and joins others in condemning the shifting of the US Embassy to Jerusalem. Do you think that's an adequate response, or what more could Pakistan really do?
Well, Waqas, very depressing situation. Palestinians are suffering enormously. International community's support is essential, of course, and Pakistan being a brotherly country, Muslim people, we are expressing whatever we can in terms of statement, expressing here and there and praying for them, but it's not enough. I mean, a people who are struggling for their right of self-determination, return of their territory, their right in every sense of the word that an individual in a society or a globe should have, but nobody is doing anything to help them, as my brother is saying here. You know, the Muslim world has a voice, not more than a media statement or foreign office's spokesman saying something. It is not enough. Of course, some leaders are talking openly. Arab leaders are particularly a big disappointment. But non-Arab Muslim leaders still talking, like the president of Turkey has made a strong statement. I think they are talking about the possibility of holding OIC summit again or some sort of coordination meeting to...
Well, Mr. Tayyip Erdogan said very, very unfortunate move.
Yes.
And he also said that it stripped Washington of its role as a mediator in the Middle East peace process.
Totally. Its credibility has gone. They don't care. They are brutal in every sense of the word. They have a terrible partnership in spoiling whatever the Palestinian claims or demands in that land they have. They don't care about it. Now, I think the only way the Palestinians, and you have drawn a good corollary or good relations between the two situations, I would say. I mean, nobody cares. People have come to a stage where they're sacrificing their lives, and they're ready to face as much bullets as they throw at them. But then how many people you are prepared to kill, and how many people are there ready to sacrifice their lives? I think it's a terrible situation. International community has disappointed everybody, particularly the Western world. Their double standards are deeply annoyed everybody in the world, especially in the Muslim world. I mean, if it was a situation somewhere in Europe or elsewhere where population would be Christian, it will be different. But we, the Muslims, at the receiving end, and there is no help, no support, not even the lip service. Sometimes people think that at least a statement has come, nothing comes.
Sir, speaking about lip service, I would like to go over a number of reactions that have come from the international community, and I'll start with the United Kingdom, the UK. Ms. Theresa May has this to say: "We disagree with the US decision to move the embassy to Jerusalem and recognize Jerusalem as the Israeli capital before a final status agreement. The British embassy to Israel is based in Tel Aviv, and we have no plans to move it." That's the UK response.
It's very positive. I should say they should continue with this sort of thing, defying, because as I know how diplomatic missions function, America being a superpower influences a lot. I mean, I thought many of these European countries and smaller friends in terms of their role in the global politics, many, to my mind, I was just thinking this morning, many would gradually and slowly and quietly shift their embassy. My gut feeling is that. Maybe not UK, maybe not France, but smaller countries, European countries and Latin Americans will move there gradually. Americans are not, they have calculated what they could do, and they are putting their whatever strength or the power in terms of influencing smaller countries they have, they will exercise it. America cannot stay and go there alone and start functioning and looking somehow like not a smart player in the world. I think they will not stop there. They will influence countries, smaller countries to start with, to move their embassies.
Well, out of the 86 countries or missions that exist in Israel, 33 of the 86 took part in the ceremony.
So they all will move.
Just 33, sir, out
So
of the 86.
take my words, matter of days
that
they will
seems to be the
decide.
case, sir.
Yeah.
Let's also talk a little bit more about the reaction coming from the Turkish President Sheryar Sab. He said that with this latest step, America has chosen to be part of the problem and not part of the solution. And this will increase tensions and ignite even greater fire between communities in the Middle East.
Well, Turkey has, always taken the side of the Palestinians, and quite, forcefully, especially by the President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. If you can recall, the blockade of the Gaza, it was only Turkey, which sent, their
Flotilla.
humanitarian aid, and it also came under attack, and it produced a kind of a diplomatic row between the two countries. But somehow they have now normalized their relationship. Turkey takes stands for Palestinian, but I don't think that the role of the United States in the region will be minimized. In a sense that United States is a superpower and is taking side of the Israel quite clearly. This problem, the Palestinian-Israeli problem, has become an ideological problem. For instance, all the Western countries are their population or the United States. They side with Israel when it comes to any resolution on Israel. So they have clearly take stance, for Israel. On the other hand, all Muslims, they take sides of the Palestine, but we don't have that power. The Muslim countries, they don't have that clout internationally. They don't have that clout in the United Nations Security Council. We don't have any representative there. So at the end, it doesn't matter when it comes to really taking the decision at the United Nations Security Council, because no Muslim country is representative there. Neither Muslim countries, they have tried in the past through force, they have waged wars with Israel, 1948, 73, 67, and they have lost the wars to Israel. So militarily speaking, Israel has the support of the West, and it has defeated the Arab countries there. And now they realize that probably military solution is not the solution there. So let's decide it with in talks. But even in talks, we don't see that's happening anywhere right at the moment. So there is also geopolitical recalibration, of the countries, especially when there is war in Syria, in Yemen, and some countries are tilting towards, already tilted towards, very close towards United States, because, for instance, Saudi Arabia thinks that Iran is the bigger threat than Israel. It doesn't consider Israel as a threat, so it's causing up to Israel under under that umbrella of the United States. So United States is now more closer to Saudi Arabia. And if you remember, during the Obama administration, Saudi Arabia was quite angry with the United States that why they have this nuclear deal. So there is no more a nuclear deal. It backed out of it. So it has come close to Saudi Arabia. It's investing in their military industrial complex, so creating jobs, as Trump says. On the other hand, it's getting closer towards Israel. Even there were, these notions that maybe even Saudi Arabia provides, that space to Israel, aerial space from where it can attack Iran. So this new equation, these Muslim countries, they may not forcefully promote the cause of the Palestinian here, because they have their other geopolitical or geostrategic interests in the region, which they think are more important than the miseries under which Palestinian people are undergoing.
Well, there's another aspect to what is happening, or what we're witnessing happening in the Middle East vis-a-vis the US, and that also has to do with Mr. Donald Trump's personal relationship with Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu. They go back, their personal friendship goes back almost 2 decades at least. How much of an influence has this personal relationship between Mr. Trump and Mr. Netanyahu brought about this new catastrophe for the Palestinians? Having said that, there's also the aspect of the evangelical Christians who want to bring an end to the world, and one of the priests who inaugurated, who is a known anti-Semite against Jews, he's had a number of pronouncements that are on the record, was invited there to cut the ribbon for the US Embassy. What does that all say about what's happening in the Middle East?
See, the embassy itself, changing the embassy or the place of the embassy from the place to the other one, it may not be having a very, you can say changing something on the ground. As you just say, catastrophe to Palestinians. This is the wrong which we are as a Palestinians facing. The catastrophe, it's not for the Palestinians, it's for the whole Muslim nation. You see, Jerusalem, Al-Quds, it's not a holy place only for Palestinians. It's a holy place, this is a holy place for the whole Muslim. Why we are fighting for it?
But it's a holy place not just for the Muslims, it's a holy place for the Jews, the Christians, the Muslims, all three of these religions.
It was never proved that it's a holy place for Jewish, never. There's nothing related to Jewish in this area. Okay, go to history, read history. Everybody can read history. There's nothing related to Jewish in this place. Now, this is a holy place for Muslim. We know this for sure. We as a Muslim have this concept. That's what we believe in. Our Quran says this, our Hadith says this, our Prophet said this, and we believe in that for 100%. Okay. Now, this holy place belongs to everyone. Since the Muslim nations start speaking that this is a Palestinian issue, the Palestinian people, we are in trouble. Because we were talking as if it is like this country and this country fighting. So it's not the same. It's not the same equation. It's a totally different equation. It's a totally different idea. It's a totally different story. This is a holy place for the Muslims. That's why Muslims are moving, dying. What for? What do you think? They want just to occupy a place? The Palestinians are moving those young men. Are they just? They want to have a more place? They want to have more lands? No, this is not their concept. This is not their target. They are going to, what they are thinking that they are trying to free a holy place according to their beliefs. Now, if you want to change the belief, that can happen. The change can be happening to Palestinians. But so far, since the belief is there, since the Islam is there, since the Muslim think in this way, they will never leave Al-Quds, in the hands of Jewish. Now, coming back to the Netanyahu relationship with Trump relationship with Netanyahu, the Israeli Americans, we have to look at it in a different way. Now, the Israelis, the Jewish are occupying, our own land, our own place. Now, if just think about it in this way: if somebody, takes a part of your house, it's your ground, your place. You don't look at American support. See, Americans so far. I don't need Americans to support me. I need Arabs to support me. I need Muslims to support me. I don't need to. I'm not supposed to move to United Nations and ask my freedom. I'm not supposed to move to United States and ask for them, please give me my right. No, they will never give you a right. Even the British, who gave the Jewish the first promise to have a state in Palestine? It was Balfour. Okay, so the British, the Americans, they are the same people. For us, they are the same. There is no difference between them in the Palestinian issue. Now, having said that, we here have to understand that we Muslims are supposed to work on that. Americans, they are not the people who lives in Saudi Arabia. They are not the people who lives in Kuwait or in Egypt or in Jordan or Syria or in Lebanon. See, the border of Palestine is border with Saudi Arabia, with Egypt, with Jordan, with Syria. Those people have to move. And the Muslim nation behind them also should support. The solution can be done. Of course, otherwise, if we are quiet, we are not doing anything. The Americans are allowed to come, Israelis are allowed to come, everybody can come and play as they want. There's no protection, there's no support, there's no protection. The neighbors themselves, since 12 years or 13 years now, Gaza is under siege by the Egyptians themselves, isn't it? By the Egyptians, it's under siege. So who's supporting? They are not even stop their support, but they are now making Gaza under siege. You can't come out even for your treatment from Gaza. You can't go in to visit someone in Gaza. So see the situation. We Arab country, we this Muslim country who's northern Palestine, actually the main problematic, situation, or more, you can say, aspect of this situation. Now, of course, Americans have seen that Arabs are so weak, and they're so scattered. Muslims who actually, like Pakistan, Indonesia, Malaysia, have no effect. Will never say anything. They announced before that we will shift the embassy to Jerusalem. Nothing. Even the spokesperson, American spokesperson at that time, she said that, we thought the sky will fall if we announced that. They have seen the sky will never fall, and Muslims are so quiet, and they don't care even about shifting the embassy here and there. So that's the main reason. There's no support. There's no concept of, protecting the holy place in the Muslim people mind nowadays.
So I'll come back to you for what kind of a solution would you advise. But before we do that, let's talk a bit more about the reaction coming from the international community. I'd like to mention what Russia has had to say. The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said that we firmly believe that it is inappropriate to unilaterally revise the decision of the international community in this way. Russia has several times offered a platform for talks on the status of Jerusalem, but nobody has taken that seriously either. So, sir, what do you make of the Russian statement? Do you think they are still supporting the Palestinian cause, or do you think that it's more of just lip service that we're going to be seeing coming from the entire world community?
Basically lip service. I mean, one would really appreciate if Russia could come forward in more vocally, more strongly, but it would not. It has very strong relations with the Jewish state of Israel, their leadership. Their personal rapport is so strong that you cannot imagine that Russian President Putin will say anything strong to encourage the Palestinian people, to give a hope to the international community that it is prepared to do something. Just maximum will say, okay, let's discuss the issue in the Security Council and see if we can find a solution, or Russia will provide a forum to initiate the dialogue, but that's not what you need at this moment. Look how effectively and actively Russia played a role in the Syrian crisis. They involved themselves, got into there and tried to help the President Hafez al-Assad's son and Assad fighting the opposition there, the extremists there, whatever they call it. But I think a brave move would be if Russia say that today, the way we worked in Syria, we will be helping the Palestinian people now. We are prepared to go and take the responsibility of defending the people of Palestine. Our guns and our barrels will be there. Will they say that?
That's not going to happen,
Never.
sir.
So it's all lip service again that you said. This is what we'll get from Russia. In this situation, the Middle East is so complicated that Arab world, as my brother was saying, is so divided. We are prepared to fight as Shias and Sunnis more, Iran and Saudi Arabia, than as common platform we are assuming as Muslims. Or as, I mean, if you even think about a humanity's cause, people are dying for a cause that their land was stolen, occupied by the Israelis. You can't say in one voice as to that, look, this is not acceptable to us. Whatever guns and barrels we have, we provide to the Palestinian people. It's time to defend the Palestinians. How far? Who will do that? You know, they're first the big country with a lot of oil, our Saudi brothers. I mean, they're going into minor things. Their issue with Iran and this, if Iran goes nuclear, we'll go nuclear. What is it? Is it the time to quarrel among yourself on these minor things? Status, Shia, Sunni? I mean, this is not the time. Palestinian people, Muslims and Christians, we should support all without condition and put all our weight, whatever it is, maybe economic sanctions, collective move. As you were saying, some of the countries should think about disengaging or severing relations with the countries which are going forward, planning to open embassies like America and others. Can we do that? Are we in a position? No. Every country has a stake and smaller stakes. Saudi Arabia, I'm terribly disappointed, I must say. Iran supports, but Iran is in a difficult position. What can it do? Iran somehow provoked the Israelis also at this stage. It is not going to take us anywhere, the Muslims or the Arab brothers. It's a time to, rethink as to how we should move together collectively. I don't know, OIC Summit, if it holds a meeting, what will it do?
Well, talking about the OIC Summit, sir, the Moroccan king, Mohammed VI, he wrote a letter to the Palestinian leader, Mahmoud Abbas, and said, we are monitoring the situation with concern.
Yeah.
He heads the 57-member organization of the Islamic Cooperation's Al-Quds Committee, and they are monitoring the situation with concern. Is there anything more that you can say about that, sir?
We have to, see the reality here. The reality is that we often talk about, the Muslim Ummah, that somehow we are one body. But the reality is that we are 57 countries. We are nation states fashioned on a Western design that we act like a nation state. And we keep our only interest of our country supreme all the time. If you look at the cooperation between the Muslim countries, there exists none. Even we don't, have those facilities given, to each other which should be given, like citizenship to each other. So anything supranational is not there within the Muslim countries. Even OIC is not a supranational institution. Its decisions are not binding. It's a forum, to discuss things, but it's not something above the state. So we are following that model of a nation-state system. In the nation-state system, We all follow our own interests, and we have our own weaknesses as well. That's why we sometimes go with Americans, sometimes we can go with Russians just to serve our interests. So to say that, the Muslims should come with a common, something, we can only condemn. This is what the Muslim states do, that what they have done so far. They can condemn something happening there, but for any giant effort there, it's not going to happen, because that's not what it is on the ground there. And even if they decide to, some of the Arab countries tried once, to decide to use force for that, but even that failed as well, because Israel is not alone. If you put your forces together somehow miraculously, that you are 57 countries and you have one body now, it will act like one body. It will have a common foreign policy, a common security like European Union. If you do that, and it has an organization like NATO, what you are doing here is that it's a kind of a civilizational war, because others will also band together. Then how can we deal with that then? No, I don't think so. That's the reality, and that's why you don't see any response or strict response from Muslim countries. They have their own strategic interests in different regions. They're least bothered about what's happening to the people there. And my friend says that it's a Muslim issue. Of course, it is for Muslim. It should be concerned. But the reality is that everyone has its own nationality. I'm a Pakistani. Other one is Indonesian. They have their own. Even Palestinians, if they get states, it will be a Palestinian state. It will be a state for the Palestinians, because they will fashion their country according to the nation state as any other states. So that's the reality that we are. So what to do then? You have forums, United Nations, their Security Council. You're not getting any help there as well. The Muslims forums are not giving you any help. Two things, in the Palestinian issues are important. One is their legal right. The people who are occupied, their land has been taken away, so they have that legal right. And there are United Nations resolutions on that as well, which nobody, Israel is not, following them. The second is the humanitarian issue, which should be the issue of the whole world. It's not just a Muslim world, when protesters are being killed, when,
Yeah, you should replace the word Palestinian with the word human being.
Human beings, yeah, that would be more correct, because it's a human rights issue. Everybody should be concerned about it, because if they're not concerned about, the same things can happen in their countries as well tomorrow. So what they're going to do? So it's a human rights issue. Human rights has become something cosmopolitan issue. Everywhere there are organizations which name and shame such countries which violate human rights, and that's why you have Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Everybody has signed that. So it's also a human rights issue, the legal issue, human rights issue, and it's also an international, the long-standing unresolved issue, in the Middle East, which is not affecting only the people there, the Palestinians, but the whole region and the whole Muslim world. It's affecting actually, because if you look at it, it gives cost to so many, even terrorist organizations. In their name, they're picking up arms, but what are they doing? They're killing their own people, Muslims. So as long as this issue remains there, we don't see anytime a peace coming in the whole region, or especially in the Arab world. And I don't see that it's happening, because nothing is in the favor of the Palestinians at the moment. And my friend from Palestine is right. Whatever they have to do it themselves now. Whatever course they adopt, they have to do it themselves, because they waited, they're expecting, from all the Muslim countries, and accept moral support, accept some kind of a political support, which even sometimes don't matter when it comes to, to different talks. So we're not sitting there whenever there are talks, neither Pakistan would sit in those talks, neither another country would sit in those talks. Who would be sitting there? There have always been, it would be either, besides these parties, it would be United States and big powers. So we don't even have a say there. So I don't see, anything happening right now. Unfortunately, I'm a bit, hopeless in this case. And I have, the evidence of history on my side. For 70 years, the people have been persecuted there. There are 12 million Palestinians who are living as refugees. It's their third generation now. 12 million. They are stateless people.
Gaza itself has been turned into an open
prison.
Yes.
So this is and nothing is happening here. It's not has shaken, that consciousness of humans throughout the globe.
Bakur was talking about the Egyptian reaction earlier. We have a reaction from the Egyptian Foreign Ministry expressing strong denunciation of Israel's use of force against Palestinian civilians. Cairo totally supports the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people, and first and foremost its right to an independent state with East Jerusalem as its capital. That's the official Egyptian response. Abu Bakr, would you like to comment on this particular what would you say to it? Is it a two-faced response?
I don't know what to say really. It's very, very disappointing. No, East Palestine, East Jerusalem, East. But why East and West? Who said that Jerusalem should be divided? It's Al-Quds. It's a one place. It's one city. Who said that we are accepting this division? No, we did not. We Palestinians have never accepted this. Okay, and even if this happened, we will still be fighting. Do anybody think that okay, today Palestinians will accept? Okay, fine. Do you give us this the East or what we call it West, and the other side will be for the Jewish, and we accept that and we live in it? No, we will never accept. And keep one thing in mind. Unfortunately, the Israeli embassy in Egypt, in Cairo, they have celebrated their 75th anniversary or 70th anniversary of independence, or what you call it.
Yes, on May 14th.
Yeah, in Cairo, and they have invited many Arabs as well, diplomats, which was unfortunate. Now, Egyptians are not really having a true act in this. Even the Turkish, we were talking about Turkish, Jordan, Egypt. These countries have political relation with Israel. They have recognized Israel. This should not happen. They have to boycott them, cut all the political, deals with them now once for all. Okay, because these actual kind of deals, what keeps Israel, living in this area. If those Arab countries stop and cut totally the political ties with them, Israel will find themselves,
isolated.
Of course. On the west side, the Egyptians are there, and the east side, the Jordanians are there. Those people have to stop the relation with Israel and cut all the ties with them forever. Of course, on the second day, Israel will find themselves isolated, number one. Number two, Palestinians will have more support. The borders should open. Jordanian borders should open. Egyptian borders should open. Egyptians are condemning this. At the same time, they are blocking the border with Palestinians. Which kind of deal is this? Okay. Now, coming back to Turkish, to Pakistan, to the international, you can say, community. We, as Palestinians, are not only expecting help from the states level, because state level, it's as we have seen so far, they're totally failure. All the countries, state level, they're totally failure. My brother just said that even Pakistan are not, sitting in this kind of talks. This country is not. Who said that this talks actually should, Pakistan should sit in these talks to help Palestinians? No. Already Pakistan having, of course, a big help to Palestinians, and we know that very well. But this is not the only way to help Palestinians. It's not through talks with the Americans or talks with the Jewish. No. The real support is to support the Palestinian cause, and that cause is to get this land back to them, free, with no Israelis, with no Jewish, no east and west of Jerusalem, no. Whole Jerusalem, all Al-Quds, all Palestine should come back to the Palestinians, and not only to the Palestinians. The country should come back, but Qibla Awal, the first Qibla for Muslims, the holy place, it should come back for the whole Muslims. And this is a very important thing, It's almost 70 years, 75 years only Israeli being in the occupied Palestine. It's not a long time. Before that, Palestinians were there, Muslims were there, not only Palestinians, all Muslims were there, okay? So it will not take much time. They will come back, Muslims will come back. But during this period of time, we came to know who actually the true person, who actually have a faith in his heart, who actually believes in holy concept, and who are not.
All right, let's talk about the reaction from Amnesty International. They said that we are witnessing an abhorrent violation of international law and human rights in Gaza. This must end immediately. And they also talked about that the violation of international standards, in some instances committing what appear to be willful killings, constitute war crimes. Now that Amnesty International has accused Israel of committing war crimes, is there any chance that we'll be seeing them being taken to task for those war crimes, sir?
It's a good statement they have given, but international institutions don't work without the influence of these big powers. You have to go and take the issue to the Security Council. Can you move one step there forward? No, because American friends are not with this issue. They are 100% supporting the Israelis. All their violations, they say these are rightful violations. Brutal killing of the Palestinian people, they say this is the Israelis' fundamental rights to kill the Palestinians. So how will you go to that International War Crime Tribunal? You have to pass through the passage of the Security Council. Security Council will never talk on these issues. when they take a resolution on, you remember that 3 months ago, after that initial violation, there was issue of talking about a resolution to be moved, an investigation team to go. Nobody is prepared to
The
do
United
that.
States blocked that, sir.
Blocked everything. So this veto power in the Security Council, that's why Pakistan is working with many countries to change the Security Council. But it's not possible. Our power is so limited. We are so divided, Muslim countries, Arab brothers. I mean, we cannot move forward. So how can you influence an organization like United Nations and World Crimes Tribunal of that sort, where we don't have any force, we don't have any power, any moral authority of the sense that just giving statement doesn't work here in this world. How to do that? So I don't expect that it will move forward. Statement good enough, we appreciate it. I think that that will remain only that much, but very unfortunate. I appreciate our full sympathy with the Palestinian people and Arab brothers, but we are very saddened to see that the Arab world is divided at this crucial time. I know the Quran gives us the assurance and the forecast is there. One day it will be our land, but when that one day will be the day to celebrate and to enjoy that freedom of people. Maybe it might take 1,000 years, unfortunately. Are we prepared for that? Palestinian brothers, their courage and their things really inspire us. But then seeing the bloodshed, seeing killing of the innocent people makes us, depressed totally and saddened.
That you mentioned the bloodshed, the Human Rights Watch has also come up with a reaction, sir. They've denounced the bloodbath in Gaza, the policy of Israeli authorities to fire irrespective of whether there is an immediate threat to life on Palestinian demonstrators in Gaza, caged in for a decade and under occupation for half a century, has resulted in a bloodbath that anyone could have foreseen. But I want to go beyond that and talk about what the Arab League has had to say. They say that it is shameful to see countries participating with the US and Israel in celebrating the move of the US embassy to Jerusalem. I don't think the American administration realizes its real implications in the short and long terms. The Palestinian side feels the United States has abandoned its historic role as a credible mediator in this conflict, and therefore the situation is out of control. So what would you like to comment on both these reactions coming from international bodies such as the Human Rights Watch and at the Arab League?
These bodies, international watches on human rights, they don't have authority. They don't have that legal authority over country. So what they do, what's their purposes? The only purpose where they can be effective is to name and shame a country for violating the human rights. Because human rights is a norm, a rather liberal and democratic norms which is heard by the people in the Western countries. Because Western countries, the liberalism in the Western countries, it also ensures fundamental human rights, freedom of expression, all these values. Now, when they name and shame a country with that, they believe that the people can put pressure on their governments because the governments can be responsible to their people through the ballot because these are democracies. So they would put pressure on the governments via the public because they are cheering human rights, which is, a universal value and on which almost every country has signed. So the only function they can do is to provide that list that who is violating, condemning, and they name and shame a country. Some of the countries then, even the Western governments, they then cannot make foreign policy regarding a country openly if it's a serious violator of human rights. So this is what it can achieve. But the Muslim world, or even the Palestinian friend said that Turkey should boycott, and these countries they are weak from within itself as well, economically or strategically. They depend on them. There is internal fissures there. For instance, let me give you an example of Turkey. Turkey cannot cut off its relationship with Israel for technical reason because Israel has free trade agreement with European Union and Turkey is a candidate for the European Union. So if you are a candidate, you have a candidature status in European Union, you have to have free trade agreement with the countries with which European Union has free trade agreements. And Turkey needs European Union. Most of its exports are to European Union. So there it cannot cut off relationship. It has its own interest before it. So it won't go there, for Palestinian It will do it politically, it will provide humanitarian aid, but it won't do. And the other countries we have seen, we don't have in the Muslim countries any supranational institution or a supranational kind of a government or a Muslim government which can, give, which has authority over any country. We don't have that. As a Muslim, we can feel for other Muslims. This is something, it's regarding your feelings and emotions, but literally or legally, can you do anything? Do you have any such body? We don't have that. And I don't see we are heading towards that because our house is so much divided. So it's, and on the other hand, if you look at, somebody talked about Russia and as well. Russia, Benjamin Netanyahu recently visited Russia and they had agreed on Iran that they would not supply air defense system to Syria. So they are addressing the concerns of Israel. They are, Israel has, Jewish lobbies everywhere. They have their lobbies, they have their businesses in most important capitals of the world, and they don't want to offend Israel. Otherwise, everybody is saying that, these settlements are, illegal. Everybody is saying that. United Nations is saying that. Everybody, even United States is saying that they are illegal. But what are they doing about it? Nothing. They have rather, with this new administration, they're getting more closer. And somebody also said, some analysis said that probably Trump also needs, he's under tremendous pressure within his country, so he needs the support of the Jewish lobby within his country because it has strong influence there within the domestic politics as well of the Jewish lobby. So probably to get their support, it's want to please them as well. So it all comes down to that, political, strategic, vested interest of every country, or people, when they think, what's best for them. And unfortunately, it leaves, the people there at the mercy of violence.
A very, very unfortunate situation as we are witnessing, and our hearts go out to the people of Palestine, and we as Pakistanis support our Palestinian brothers in every way possible. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for taking out the time and sharing your views with PTV World. Well, you heard the conversation, and as viewers, we always urge you to draw your own conclusions from what you've heard. And before we end the program, we'd also like to mention and express our sorrow for the unfortunate 25 students who were swept away in the Neelam Valley. Responsibility should be attached to some touristic organization or the government where such accidents should be prevented. Such tragedies are easily preventable, and unfortunately we need to step up our own way in which we manage our touristic spots. And we hope that the government takes cognizance of this very, very unfortunate accident that led to the loss of 25 young lives.